All right, you are now tuned in to the first episode ever of Gun Talk Nation. You know, we've Gun Talk Media, we've been conquering the airwaves for a long time and wanted to expand that out. People have been listening to the podcast on Gun Talk Radio for a long time. So today you've got Ryan Gresham and we've got Kevin Jarnigan beside me, a.k.a. KJ.
The fashionable.
Actually, overdressed.
I thought as our first podcast,
Nice.
I thought, you know what? I'm going to dress up. I'm going to look nice.
You're classing it up here, buddy.
I'm in a tuxedo.
Is that a tactical tux?
It is. It's a tactical tux because I'm wearing flip-flops.
well, it's tactical because it's black.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the other voice you're hearing is Tom Gresham, a.k.a. Dad. But we thought, you know, who better to have as our first guest on Gun Talk Nation than the man who started it all?
The first podcast about guns,
Yep.
first radio show about guns that we're aware of.
Yep.
And a few other firsts that we've done along the way, because Gun Talk Media has been in the lead on everything, really.
We try to be creative and come up with new stuff. So far, so good.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we created the first TV show about self-defense with guns. So
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it started all before that. You guys are kind of starting almost a third of the way into this.
This is true.
It started way before this.
Well, and I thought we could dive into that. That's a good segue. I mean, so I'm third generation this. Your dad, my grandfather, was Grits Gresham. And maybe explain to people how this thing really started. How did we get here?
sure, it's a good point. Yeah, my dad, Grits Gresham, was a gun writer, an outdoor writer. He wrote about fishing and hunting and guns. And for 27 years, he was the shooting editor for Sports Afield magazine. Back then, they were really only, they call them the big three magazines, Outdoor Life, Field and Stream, and Sports Afield. And then there was Guns and Ammo and American Rifleman.
Right.
That was it. I mean, if you're going to read about the outdoors, that's where you went.
And I mean, and as far as media goes, obviously there was not internet, no blogs, no
No.
podcasts.
There were only 3 TV channels
Yeah, in
You know.
America.
in America.
Right.
So,
And you were lucky if you got 2 of them.
yeah, if you adjusted the rabbit ears just right.
Yeah, exactly.
And so Grits, Dad, actually was on the major outdoor TV show, which was the American Sportsman
American Sportsman,
on
yeah.
ABC TV. And when you imagine, okay, if you took the viewing audience and just split it into thirds, if you pull a 33 share,
That's a third of the country
that's unbelievable.
watching you, which is
Yes.
just, and people who don't follow like TV ratings, but like a third of the country watching something would be not quite a Super Bowl, but, you know, like the biggest American Idol finale ever.
Yeah.
Something
Right.
like that.
And they're watching hunting.
They're
It's
watching
definitely
hunting.
way more than World
Shooting.
Series.
way more than World Series. And
Yeah.
we're talking about people going hunting all over the world with Kurt Gowdy and all these celebrities. And
They took Bing Crosby.
Burt
and-
Crosby.
Burt
yeah.
Reynolds, Bing Crosby.
Yeah.
They took the stars of the day and went out and hunting and fishing with them for many, many years. And Dad was one of the producers and field host on that deal. So I grew up the son of a gun writer. So it was a weird way to grow up. It was cool, but it was like, also remember, only 5 gun magazines, right?
Yeah.
But that meant the gun makers only had to send out 5 guns.
Yeah, that's right.
So we got every
Every
gun made.
Everyone.
Because, I mean, it didn't cost them anything to speak of. And back then, they didn't want them back.
Right.
I mean, and you go into the house and we've got rows and rows and rows and racks of guns still with the hang tags on them.
Hundreds
So
of guns.
Yeah.
If it came out, we got it. So I grew up being able to play with everything.
Every gun that came out.
Yes. Everything.
So when you started out, and I know the story, but maybe for people listening, I mean, you didn't start out when you were 22 years old after you graduated college to say, I'm going to try this writing thing. I
No.
mean, where this started way back.
Oh, yeah. Well, very much like what you did when I was 2 or 3 years old. I was already posing for pictures because
Yeah.
they had to have some,
That's what you do.
right? I mean, you know, hold this fish.
Absolutely. Sit against this tree and hold this gun.
That's right.
Look
That's
like
right.
you're aiming right
That's
there.
right.
Yeah.
You're taking pictures. And then
Yeah.
when I got to be 13, I was really starting to get into photography, and I shot a lot of the pictures for Dad's bass book, which came out then, which was really the big bass book of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got into that, and then I started writing, and by 18, I was co-authoring his syndicated newspaper column.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was a writer doing this stuff before I went to college, which did not end up well for me in college because the head of the department in the University of Missouri's photojournalism program did not like outdoors.
Oh, really?
That
Yes.
did not play well in your cards.
It did not, and because he had photographers coming in from Life and Look and National Geographic, and the idea. I mean, I'm already writing for the
You're already
magazine.
working.
I'm working.
Yeah.
It's like I know what I'm going to do because I'm already doing it.
Yeah.
And I remember him declaring one night in a night class that anybody who wanted to work in the outdoor field had no ambition and wouldn't amount to anything. Of
Well,
course, I'm the only one in the class
Yeah.
who's doing that. Gee, I wonder who he's talking
who is
to.
why did he bring up the outdoors? That's kind of random.
Yeah, it turned out he was right. I didn't amount to much, but there you go.
So far, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I'm still working on
You
it.
know?
But I think one of the coolest things is when I came on to work is Tom took me one day over to a storage unit,
Yeah.
and there's all these file bins
Yeah.
chock full of old articles, old pictures that you had taken and Grits had taken. And it's an amazing library of
Decades and
Yeah,
decades.
right.
Yeah.
it's where it all started.
Yeah.
It's probably 5 decades of outdoor writing. And Grit's dad he hunted all over the world.
Yeah.
And I mean, literally around the world. So we kind of grew up with that. And, and everybody thinks that however they grew up is the norm. And that wasn't until later on I figured out that that really wasn't normal. It was pretty exceptional.
Right.
But it was pretty cool because,
Yeah.
I also got to go, on hunts and go things and do things. But all that to say that bringing that to where we are now, I grew up, I basically learned to read by reading Gun Digest,
Right.
the annual. And so it's like when people ask a question on the radio show now, and I go, oh, yeah, well, that was the Remington 600. We have 4 of those, in the 6mm,
Well,
6.5 rim,
You don't
etc.
have to have read about it. You were there.
Yes.
I've heard
Good
you talk about, when it was 243 versus 6mm back 50 years ago,
Right.
or whatever it was.
Yeah, I was shooting them
And it was like I know the story because I was there when it happened.
when they came out. Yeah, when
And
Remington screwed up the 6mm and
and
never
by-
recovered.
They did the wrong thing in marketing, and all of a sudden
Yep.
now everyone has killed a deer with a 243, and the 6mm just now recently they're going, and that's a pretty good cartridge.
It was actually,
And now,
it was
finally.
it was actually better.
It was always better than the 243.
Yes, but Remington here's the deal. Remington loaded it with a lighter bullet. They thought it was a varmint cartridge, and they set the twist rate in their barrels at 1 in 12. Winchester came out with 243 and did a 1 in 10, so
Yeah.
they could stabilize the 100-grain bullet,
Make it a
which
little
made
bit more
it great for deer.
Right.
Yep.
And so when Remington brought it out, it was actually wasn't called the 6mm. It was called the 244 Remington.
Okay.
And it was
Find a box of that ammo.
yeah.
244 Remington.
you know what? It's in the storage unit.
Yeah,
I bet it
I
is.
guarantee you it probably
I
is.
bet it is.
And
You
it's
know
little
it.
it's little things like this that like how does someone know this stuff? It's someone who grew up reading this stuff and it's just in his memory now.
We
It's
have
just locked in there.
we actually have sponsors for this show already.
already.
Yes, and I forgot to mention.
Are these,
so we're probably
already-
they've
Are
already
they-
canceled. We're already off.
are
the
they
air.
fake sponsors? Like I had fake callers on my first radio show.
Yeah, have your friends call in.
Oh yeah, I
Oh,
did.
we should have done that.
We weren't on we weren't on the air, and I wanted to have callers, so I arranged for my friends to call in and be the fake callers.
Is this like the people on Instagram who do the?
Oh yeah.
They fake like they're doing sponsored posts because it makes them look cool at their high school.
They sit there and they go, "Hey, I really need you to troll my account." Like,
All right. Well, this is a real thing.
all right.
Today's show, Gun Talk Nation, is brought to you by Airgun Depot. Airguns can. What can they do? They can do a lot. And Crimson Trace, the firearm industry leader in electro-optics. So
And all
there,
that
I
other
checked
stuff.
that box.
When you-
Okay.
when you
All that
said-
other
when you-
stuff.
when you
We're
said-
good.
When you said air guns can, I thought you were talking about suppressors. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, airguns
I'll take 2.
I'll take 2 cans. Thank you.
You can have silencers on air guns.
That's right, and it's not regulated.
It's not regulated.
Right.
Isn't
That's
that
so
great?
cool. But do not take it off and put it on your 22 rimfire,
No, it won't work, and it'll be illegal.
and it'll be illegal. You go to Club Fed on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on a milestone for you. Gun Talk Radio is hitting 25 years on the air this week.
This week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I figured it would last 6 to 12 weeks. It was one of those deals. I've told the story before. It came out of a conversation at the SHOT Show. I was talking with Alan Gottlieb,
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know Alan well. He's the founder of the Second Amendment Foundation. I went up to him at the cocktail party of the Women's Shooting Sports Foundation, which doesn't exist anymore, but it was an offshoot of the NSSF. And I said, Alan, we ought to do something together. And I knew that he published books and all. So I'll write a book for you. We ought to do something. He said, well, have you ever been on radio? I said, well, no, I've done some television and all. He said, we ought to do radio. Got to remember, this is 1995.
Yeah.
Talk radio was brand new.
There was like a guy, Rush Limbaugh.
Rush Limbaugh had been on the air for
Yeah.
like 5 years. He was started the whole deal.
Yeah.
I said, well, I don't know anything about that. Well, what I didn't know, he owned a radio network, which was pretty helpful to get on the air.
Yeah.
He had a couple of radio stations.
He said,
right?
I've got an opening.
He says, we can get you in. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And then he said, you'll love this. He says, well, I said, well, how does it work? He said, well, you got to get sponsors. I said, do what? Yeah, you got to have somebody, I said, I don't know how to do that. He said, well, see what you can do. So I go down to the SHOT Show the next day, 1995. And the first person I go talk to was Ken Jorgensen, who was at Smith & Wesson.
Yeah.
Right? And I started talking. I said, well, I had this weird idea. I was talking to this guy, and I get like 30 seconds into it. He said, well, we're in. I said, well, no, what do you mean? He said, no, we're in. We'll sponsor the show. I said, well, I don't have a show.
It's not a thing yet.
I don't have any rates. He says, you're not hearing me, Tom. He says, if you're doing it and it's talk radio about guns, we're in. And I went to talk to several other people. In an hour, I had 5 sponsors.
I guess this is a thing now.
Yeah.
So I went back to Alan. He said, oh, good. Well, you filled your first hour. Now you've just become a 2-hour show. I said, I haven't done a show yet.
Well, and you've had interesting adventures with program directors at radio stations and
geez.
people who thought that this will never last. And what are you going to talk about
Well,
after 3 weeks?
Well,
You're
and
gonna run
especially,
The only thing that didn't last was the program directors.
that. Yeah, that's right.
well, you sit there and ask, how are you going to talk about guns for 4 hours?
Oh, they said
3,
that.
4 hours?
How could you? Won't you run out of things to talk about after a couple of weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. And I went to a big time radio consultant. He was the guy. He's still in the business. And he said, yeah, he says, you probably will never get more than 3 stations anyway. He's like, why are you bothering, kid? And so, yeah, we're on 265 stations now.
Yep.
And the podcast, of course, we were on the, how you describe it. We were a podcast before there was a podcast.
Yeah, we just put the
Yep.
radio show on the
We
internet.
put it on the internet, and the format was called Real Audio at the time. You'll love that. Okay, so I'm doing the show remote, and the producer's in another state. He's recording it, of course, and then he would make a CD and put it in the U.S. mail and mail it to a guy in California who I never met. He's since died, but he is the one who volunteered, sent me an email, says, hey, you got to put this on the internet. I go, I don't know how to do that. He says, I do.
Just mail me a CD.
We mailed him a CD. He would
Each week.
rip the CD each week and put it online. So 20 years ago, we were podcasting before Apple had invented the iPod.
So
That's way back when people were like downloading like LimeWire and burning it for free.
I mean, it was the early days, man. It really was.
So the actual anniversary, the 25th anniversary is
March 5. Right. That
And
was
so
this Thursday.
we're a couple days ahead of that right now. We're going to release show number 1.
We actually I dug around and I found show number 1 on a cassette tape.
No.
Yes. The first show. It is intact and it is bad.
Is there a lot of
It wasn't
awkward
good.
pauses?
Yeah.
There's a lot of, this guy has no idea what he's doing when you listen to it. You just go,
The break
man.
music starts playing, it's
It's like, oh, man.
Talking over it.
and they
It's
just
like,
cuts him off.
I didn't know.
We'll be back with more
Oh, that still happens. But we got all, and actually for the show this coming Sunday,
Yep.
we were doing our 25th anniversary show. I got one of the guys who was one of our fake callers
Really?
in the first show. Yeah.
Fake colors.
No, what you ought to do is you ought to have all the fake callers call in and ask the exact same question they did.
If you call into the show and you ask questions as a fake caller, are you a fake caller?
Yes.
That's a good question.
Yes. Still a fake caller. Once
All
a fake caller, always a fake caller.
So here's what was interesting. First show, we had a representative, the head of the NRA ILA, talking about gun rights and gun control. Because 1995, we were 1 year into the Clinton gun ban.
That's
the
right.
So-called assault weapons ban,
That's right.
which was a 10-year deal, which ended up sunsetting, thank goodness. It actually when the Democrats passed that gun bill, it cost them control of Congress. They completely lost Congress because Americans revolted against
They
that.
woke up.
Which
Kind of like Virginia guys are doing
just
today.
what I was going to say. Well, not just Virginia guys. I think Virginia,
The nation.
the nation is looking at Virginia, and I'm getting reports from all over the country now of people where they would used to have 4 people show up at the legislature. Now they have 400 gun owners show up, and we're swamping. And I keep telling people that's the only way we win. We have to show up in huge numbers. And I think a lot of gun owners around the country are looking at Virginia and going, wow, they put tens of thousands of people at a rally. We got to get off our rear ends and move here.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're
Pay
gonna
the
do
bills.
we got to pay the bills real quick.
So
All right,
selling soap,
we're gonna sell some soap. We're gonna sell air guns and lasers. It's more
Cool.
fun than soap.
better than soap.
Airgun Depot. Airgun Depot is your source for airgun deals, new product releases, and reviews into the world of BB guns, pellet guns, and airsoft guns. Air guns offer shooters more trigger time without any of the usual obstacles like space, time, or money. No money obstacles. Amazingly accurate with enough power to take down game. You can hunt with them. Air guns are quiet, inexpensive, easy, and fun. Find out what air guns can do at airgundepot.com. And also, one of the companies that supports a lot of what we do, and they're supporting this show, is Crimson Trace. Since 1994, Crimson Trace has defined and built the laser sighting category through design, innovation, and performance. With an obsession to create best-in-class electro-optics, Crimson Trace offers a full line of lasers, lights, reflex sights, red dot sights, and rifle scopes for tactical and sporting applications. Most Crimson Trace products include free batteries for life, and all scopes are backed by a lifetime warranty. Find yours at your local dealer or at crimsontrace.com.
Dang, you read
Beautiful.
good.
Man, that
All right.
education
Yeah.
paid off.
Paid the bills. All right, we
All right.
checked that box.
That's right.
So going back to Virginia and what happened there, I think one of the things why the nation really started waking up is because something happened. Like they made a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yes.
because typically us as gun owners, and you've written about this, is that one, we consume our own and we don't show up. We have a history of that.
Right.
Until it's too late.
Ballistic cannibals.
Exactly.
Ballistic cannibals eating their own on,
Yep.
There it
on
is.
AR15.com,
But
wherever they
Now,
go.
Virginia, they didn't win everything.
They didn't.
They've had several laws passed there that are very bad laws.
Yeah,
You know,
they're fighting an uphill battle instead of
well, they
Right.
lost.
You know,
they
at the
lost
top of the
control.
hill.
The Democrats won control of they call it the General Assembly there of the legislature, and the governor said, "Any gun control bill you send me, I'll sign."
Yeah.
And so they're like fast tracking a lot of this
Right.
stuff. One is hopeful. There are people who are saying, "Well, we're going to challenge it in court, but also at the next big election, we're going to come back and kick all you guys out, and we're going to repeal all this nonsense that
Yeah.
you're passing." Maybe, maybe not. Just all depends if we have to have long memories on this stuff. We have
Right.
to show up. Well, think about this. We were talking about this on the first show 25 years ago. The conversation is no different from what it is today.
so
This is
that's-
a long fight.
yeah, that's something that hasn't changed because they're always coming for the guns.
Yes.
What has changed in that side of things? What do you think has
Oh,
changed in 25 years?
The big change that is both political and not political is concealed carry.
Yeah.
Because in 25 years ago, there were like 3 states that had concealed carry. Florida was the big one.
Right.
And when they passed concealed carry in Florida, which of course their tourism slogan is the Sunshine State, the crazies said, well, it's going to be the Gunshine State. That's what they called it.
Right.
And it was the first time I'd heard the whole deal about, well, every fender bender is going to result in a shootout. The blood's going to run in the streets, yada, yada, yada. And then that didn't happen there. Then state after state after state passed concealed carry laws. Texas, it took them 7 years. They kept passing it, and the governor kept vetoing it. And finally, Ann Richards, who was the governor of Texas at the time, they voted her out, and that's why she lost. That's why George Bush won. He said, I will sign the concealed carry bill.
Really?
Yeah. So state after state after state. So now we got concealed carry in some form or fashion in every state.
Right.
Well, now you have 18 million people who have carry permits, and now you have 16 or 17 states that have constitutional carry
Right.
where you don't need a permit at all. Well, that changes the landscape. And part and parcel of that is all these women who decided to take care of
Right.
themselves. They got guns. They got training. They're carrying guns. That changes, number one, well, several things. It changes the politics.
Yep.
But the other thing it changes, which takes us to an interesting place, it changes the guns that are on the market.
Well, that's another thing I wanted to talk about is, man, you talk about, and especially on the pistol side,
Mhm.
maybe there's been lots of changes in long guns, but I feel like the pistol side from what was it, 95?
Yeah.
Where we at? 95? Yeah.
25 years ago, 95.
Okay. To now, I mean, what did we have for pistols in 1995?
We had 1911s,
Yep.
Browning high powers.
Berettas.
We had Berettas, and we had, and Smith had some steel autoloaders. There was, when it comes to polymer, there may have been others, but pretty much it was the Glock. The Glock
Yeah.
was early on. It was just getting started. And of course, now everybody has polymer guns, and I mean, a lot of companies have lots and lots of different polymer guns. We didn't have much in the way of small guns. There were things like the Sea Camp, little bitty semi-auto, kind of a boutique kind of a gun. And there were the little baby Brownings,
Yep.
which have been around for a long time.
What about the little tip-up barrels?
Yep,
Those little guys.
exactly. That's the little baby Brownings, the little tip-up Berettas,
The
like
little Berettas. Yeah.
little Beretta.
Bearcat or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could single load it and then close it up
Yeah.
and all that. So we had those. I mean, small handguns have been around for a long, long time. I mean,
Sure.
we have the Derringer,
Right.
obviously. But the quality of the guns we have today is better.
Mm-hmm.
What you buy out of the store today is more reliable. A stock, just pick a gun, a stock M&P now, the barrel on that's made with CNC machinery is more accurate than a match barrel from 25 years ago.
Yeah.
That you would pay
The hand-tuned.
extra for.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Big time.
Hand-tuned, Bomar, whatever we wanted, the best barrels. A stock out of the box CNC machine barrel today is at least as good, if not better. You know, and it probably cost them $3 to make it.
Oh,
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's
in
and we're-
20 minutes.
and we're the beneficiaries of all of that.
Yeah. You've had some fun stories over the years on the air. Some fun stories and some ones that really
Well, there's
burn
some,
into your
There's
brain.
the one story that I will take to my grave that I will never ever forget. This lady called in, and she said, "Yeah, I've got a gun for self-defense. You get that occasionally. Okay, yeah." And we're talking and all, and the music starts. I got to go to the break. I said, "Well, appreciate it. Thank you very much." She said, "Well, yes, thank you." She says, "If I hadn't had a gun, neither me or my daughter would be alive today." I said, "Whoa. We got to go to the break, but you can't go away. Stay right there. We're going to come
Yeah,
back, find
what's
out
that
what's
all
going on."
about?
You buried the lead.
Yeah. So I came back after the break. Her name was Bree. Never forget it. I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, I had an abusive husband." I said, "Really?" She says, and I remember the words. I could hear her voice in my head. She says, "I'm not talking bruises." She says, "I'm talking broken bones abuse. Going to the hospital abuse." And I would go to the police, and they would say, "Well, we can't really do anything about it unless he's there when we show up. So we can't, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what she was told." And then on one of these visits to the police department, she said a police officer followed her out to her car. He said, "All right, lady, here's the deal." He says, "We can't be there when he's there. You have to get an equalizer." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You have to get a gun." She said, "So I went and got a gun." She says, "And then I took my daughter, and we moved out at the dark of night. We left the state, ran away from him." She said, "And then he found us. And he's beating on the door." This was before 911. So she's on the phone trying to call the police, and she's yelling at the door saying, "Don't come in, I've got a gun." And he's beating on the door, and finally he kicks in the door. He's coming in saying, "I'm going to kill you." She said, "Then I started shooting." She said, "And I shot and shot." She says, "I never hit him." She says, "But I shot all around him." She said, "And then the last time I saw him, he was on all fours going across the front yard." She says, and then she says this. She says, "And we never heard from him again."
And that's that. Oh my gosh.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
You think, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I have had some fun calls. I had the guy who called, and we're talking, we're having a great conversation. He said, "Oh, wait a minute." He said, "I got a policeman behind me." I said, "Well, do you need to pull over?" He says, "No, I'm sitting on the side of the road. I pulled over to make the call." I said, "Okay." And I said, "What's going on?" He says, "Well, he's walking up behind me." You could hear the window go down, and now you hear the traffic going by. Shoo, shoo. And policeman, you could hear him, a state trooper. He says, "Are you okay, sir?" And he's still got his phone on, and we're on the air live. And he says, "Well, yeah." He says, "I'm talking on the phone. I'm on the radio show right now." He says, "Well, what's that?" He says, "Yeah, I'm talking on Tom Gresham's Gun Talk." The policeman says, "I'm listening to that show right now."
They're both listening to the show. You had people calling from duck blinds.
Duck blinds. Bert Jones called us from a duck blind. We've had a guy call from a horse.
Yeah.
I said, no. He said, yeah. He said a guy called in from his tractor's combine where he's out listening on the radio and calls in.
I think one of the
never know.
duck blind guys actually was on the call and had to pause to shoot a duck.
To shoot a duck, yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Hold on a second.
I said, well, that's okay.
Hold my beer.
We'll hold. You shoot the duck. You come on back when you can, It's bizarre. I mean, we called Dave Workman one time out of the blue trying to line him up, and his phone rings. He's on the side of a mountain grouse hunting. And he said, "I can't believe you called me when I'm grouse hunting." I said, "Well, I can't believe you answered your phone when you're grouse hunting."
Yeah, what are you doing here?
You can't do that.
Yeah, what are you doing? But he sat on the side of the hill. We had Jeff Hoffman from Black Hills Ammo.
Yep.
He was talking to us, doing a guest deal, sitting on a hill deer hunting.
Right,
watching deer down there. Remember?
Yeah.
Goodness.
It's the magic of all this stuff, what you can do. But a lot of fun memories, a lot of good calls, and we've had people who call and say, I think you probably saved our lives.
Yeah. And also on the political side of trying to get messages out there and some phrasing that resonates with people, and they repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. I think, Gun Talk Radio was the first to come up with a lot of some of those.
A lot of the phrases that you hear now that are common, they got them from, I came up with, I'm a writer. At heart, that's what I do. I'm a writer. And I've always worked on ways to come up with something. So I came up with this phrase that people might recognize, which is, the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
Yeah.
Well, Wayne picked that up and thought that was pretty good.
He was listening to Gun Talk Radio.
Solid.
He took it off.
I like that. I'm going to use that.
Or his writers did, because Wayne's never written a word in his life.
No.
Yeah. Somebody heard it.
But it's a good line, It works.
Well, and that's the type of stuff that's helpful for our cause too.
Exactly.
You have to have those soundbite kind of messaging where people go, that's true. Or, when the seconds count, the police are only minutes away.
Right. Those are the ways to explain something. And it's a soundbite world.
Yeah.
You have 10 seconds to deliver your message. People say, well, let's start to talk about, the logic and the numbers and all that. So no. Here's the deal. In 10 seconds, they can show an emotional commercial or emotional spot and tug at people's heartstrings. And now you're trying to explain the numbers of guns and how much they're used in self-defense. And the idea is, you don't understand. It's a media game.
Right.
It is a media game. And if you're not good at media, you lose. Sorry, you just lose. So if you want to play in this area, you have to understand how it works. For instance, and I don't know, I'm just making this up as we go, but it would not be difficult at all to have a woman there with her gun, with her daughter, who said, with this gun, I was able to save our lives.
Right.
Boom. There it is.
Yeah. Well, and that's the stuff we talk about every week on the show.
Yeah. That and then all the new stuff.
Every week.
Let's see. 25 years ago, we didn't have any lasers.
Yeah.
To speak of, I don't think. No red dot sights.
I guarantee you the BB guns and the air gun depot.
Oh my
folks,
gosh!
Hey, sitting down with a little Red Rider.
Yes,
peeking behind a red cedar tree.
Yeah, that's true.
I wore out a whole bunch of BB guns growing up.
Oh yeah,
the old Daisy 25, that slide action, with the scissor thing.
Yeah.
And when you're a little kid, you can't reach all the way out there, so you're holding on to that scissor thing, and every time it goes off, you get a blood blister. It pinches you. And then you unscrew you unscrew the little magazine. It comes out of the barrel.
Yeah.
And we figured out, if you want to load that thing quickly, what you did, you take that little pack of BBs, that plastic pack of BBs, put them all in your mouth.
You put them
Yes. Oh yeah. Now
not
you-
a choking hazard.
Yeah. No problem there.
Kids, don't try this at home.
You have a mouth full of BBs.
God.
and you're
now
just spitting them in.
And you open it up, put that thing up to your mouth, and you're spitting BBs into the magazine as fast as you can.
Full auto BB spitting.
I can't imagine why those things rusted.
Never.
I got to get back in the game, man. I got to get this thing loaded.
All right. So this is Gun Talk Nation. We're doing this every week. Tom Gresham, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for 25 years of awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, and they can check out the 25-year show this Sunday on Gun Talk, and also, of course, on the podcast.
Absolutely. All right. This is Gun Talk Nation. We'll see you next week.